But I want to officially welcome you to the wedding of Jenny Mae and John Wray. And as you can see, it is an event that's a reflection of them, of their creativity, and their passion, and their love for each other. And I just wanted to point out that, you know, John is a bike enthusiast. That's where the bikes came from, just as his father Harry is. And if you know Harry, you wouldn't be surprised to know that Harry wanted the procession to start in Racine. But then you know Jenny and her creativity and her passion and all of these flowers, the flowers that are on the tables, the flowers that you see here, the decorations, those were all done by her. And she also did the bouquets. She did have a little help from Carrie Ehrenberg, Kelly Fox, and Lori LeBreton. But I wanted to point that out because this is a very special time for both of them. And we come together to celebrate the two of them and join them together in royal matrimony. All right? So before we get started, I thought it might be appropriate to provide an explanation to those of you who might be scratching your head and saying, what's with the guy in the hoodie? I am the officiant. And I would like to tell you a story about how I came to learn the meaning of that word, officiant. Now, I've played songs in weddings before, and they happen to be some of the most terrifying and anxiety-ridden experiences of my life. But officiant, well, it all started when they came to visit me in my home in Colorado. I am John's cousin. And we had a great time. It was my first time meeting Jenny, and I got to experience what a wonderful, delightful person she is, and see how wonderful they are together, and to see that it's clear they were meant to be together. So one day, we went on a little hike, and they shared with me all of their ideas for the ceremony, the bikes, the tutus, and the venue. And towards the end of the hike, they stopped, and John turned to me and he said, "We've thought about it, and we've talked about it, and we'd like you to be the officiant." And I thought, okay. I had no idea what an officiant was, okay? And I didn't even have it spelled right in my head. I was just happy they hadn't asked me to play a song. So I said, sure. What's the officiant do? And they both looked at each other and kind of laughed nervously. And John explained to me that the officiant officiates the ceremony. And I said, oh. And as it started sinking in, I asked them, why me? And they said, in essence, well, we think you can make it fun and funny and meaningful. But by the way, all this stuff we told you about the ceremony, you've got to keep it secret. And we don't want to know what you're going to say. So I wondered to myself, how many people turned you down before you asked me? But of course I was very touched and I'm honored to do this. So of course I said yes. But I knew I was going to need some help. So I know of one person in the world who has been in this experience. And he's fondly referred to as His Eminence, Terry Lynch. And he's here today. He was the officiant of John's sister Molly and her husband's wedding. And he did a wonderful job. And he set the bar extremely high. So I called him. And I said, Your Eminence? And he said, my child. Didn't even ask who it was. And I explained to him my situation in great detail, and he listened intently. And when I was finished, he repeated it back to me. And he said, okay, so you've never done this before, right? And I said, right. He said that they want you to do it because they think you can make it fun and funny and meaningful. And you have to keep it secret, and they don't want to know what you're going to say. And I said, yes. And then there was a thoughtful pause. And he said, I think I lead with that. So, thank you for the good advice, Your Eminence. And with that, today is about celebrating John and Jenny and their love for each other, and to join them together as husband and wife. But it's also the coming together of two families. And the reason I mention this is because a while back, Jenny sent me a description of the May side of the family. And as I read through it, I realized this is a perfect description of the Ray side of the family as well. So, I'm going to read that now and stand by for some amens. Okay, be ready. So this is what she said. We have an extremely strong sense of Italian culture alive and well in the family. We are all opinionated, loud, affectionate, competitive, and we all think we're very funny. All right. Rays, you've got some catching up to do. So there's a lot to celebrate here. So we come together in a spirit of celebration and fun to join these two wonderful people together with the support of two amazing families. So, Jenny and John have put a lot of thought into the values and goals that they have for their relationship. And we all know it's one thing to intellectually determine what those values and goals are, but it's quite another to see them exemplified in people that you know and love and care about in a way that inspires you. So at this time, Jenny and John would like to honor some of the marriages and couples that have truly brought these values to life and thank them for providing a strong example of a healthy relationship. John.
We want to honor my parents, Harry and Judy, for their unconditional love. After more than 40 years of marriage, they're still as much in love now as they were when we first met, and they always let me know that. Love has always been the first and most important thing in our family, and they passed that lesson on well to both Molly and me. Yes, please. Oh.
Next, we'd like to honor my Uncle Nick and Aunt Laura for their loyalty and commitment not only to each other, but to their children and extended families for the past 30 years. The strength of their relationship has provided a greater sense of stability within our family as a whole. Nick and Laura exemplify what it means to be with someone for better or worse. Whether struggling with personal health issues, grief and loss, or Uncle Nick's countless bad jokes and puns, challenges have only deepened their marriage and brought them closer together. Can you please stand?
Next, we'd like to honor my Aunt Claudia and Uncle Wade for their unlimited affection. Claudia and Wade have been married for almost 60 years. This past summer, at Jenny's first time meeting them, Uncle Wade came up behind Aunt Claudia, gave her a big hug, and saying, after 60 years, we can still do this. They offer a wonderful balance, with Claudia's enthusiasm and gift for storytelling tempered by Wade's measured and calm demeanor. They also know how to show their Chicago family a great time whenever we visit. It is always an annual highlight to see them.
Next, we'd like to honor my Aunt Helen and my late Uncle Don, who were married in 1949, for their kindness and generosity shown to each other and those around them. In addition to raising their own 6 children, they also welcomed my father, my aunt, and my grandmother into their home. It takes special people to live happily in a house of 11 with only 1 bathroom. With grace and patience, they continually offered themselves to others while still making time for card games, camping trips, and spur dancing. To this day, my Aunt Helen continues to play a key role in the care of her grandchildren, hosts friends and family at her home, and always remembers you on your birthday. Can you please stand, Aunt Helen?
Next, we'd like to honor Lori and Pierre LeBreton for fostering friendships. Seeing as how their son has been one of my best friends for over 20 years now, this one seems appropriate. Lori and Pierre have a way of making and keeping friendships with people all over the world and of all ages. Whenever we go to a party of theirs, we can always count on meeting a diverse group of wonderfully interesting people. On top of this, it is clear that their own friendship is still alive and well, and enriching their lives more every day. See you.
Lastly, we'd like to honor Tim and Linda Fox for bringing a sense of adventure and individuality into their relationship. This is only to be expected from a couple who met while jumping out of planes. The admirable thing is that they continue to make new and exciting experiences a priority in their marriage on a large and small scale. They make time for dates, film club, educational vacations, plays, family events, personal interests, and they're on the cutting edge of the Chicago foodie scene. You will always learn something new in a conversation with a Fox. Tim and Linda, please stand up.
Now, of those who were just acknowledged, there are a few who actually would like to share some of the wisdom that they've accumulated over the years with you in the form of some marriage advice. And that's a close encounter. And I have these here now, and we'll start with Harry and Judy. Harry said, "Because Judy and I love each other, we flail away at the various tasks of everyday life, trying to make things easier for each other. So I guess one key to a successful marriage is to experience the things that others might consider work as joyful acts of giving and receiving." And then Judy said, "Always discuss any issue with each other. Don't suppress them. Give lots of hugs, respect the other person's opinion, and laugh whenever possible." Then Pierre and Lori also chimed in. Pierre said, "For two people to stay married, one of them has to be very stubborn." Check. And then Lori said, "Take every opportunity that comes your way to have fun. I think John and Jenny won't have any trouble with that one. A honeymoon in Iceland sounds absolutely perfect." Fun and Iceland are pretty much synonymous. And then Laura and Nick had this to say: "When trying to figure who was more responsible for the longevity of our marriage, it almost ended." What we did come up with was a list. One not necessarily more important than the other, but important enough to make the list. Commitment, shared values, best friends, concern for our children, honesty, and respect for each other. P.S. And he's a good cook, too. And finally, Wade and Claudia weighed in, and they happen to be my parents. So this feedback came on a phone call that we had, and I asked them for their feedback, and Wade, my father, jumped in and said, "Tell her you love her every day." And then Claudia, my mother, said, "Have a happy hour every day." That was my reaction. And then she said, "No, really, have a happy hour every day." And then Wade said, "It loosens me up so I talk a little more." For their 59th anniversary, my sisters and I are going to give them an intervention. But Wade had one more bit of advice for John. He said to pay special attention to one word in the traditional vows: obey. So, that's the feedback, the wisdom accumulated through the years that hopefully you will find useful. In planning this and putting this together, it occurred to me that everybody in this room knows one of these people extremely well, and the other not so much. So I thought it would be appropriate to take some time to get to know them a little better. And what better way to do that than to hear what Jenny and John have to say about those who raised them, and hear what those who raised them have to say about Jenny and John. So we'll start with what Jenny has to say about Margie and Norma, and get ready for some more amens, okay? My grandma, Norma Ehrenberg, is the matriarch of our family. She is very youthful and is always cooking and entertaining. She got divorced when my mom was 10, and my parents divorced when I was 10. But both my mom and grandma have been a huge role model for me, showing me how independent, strong, self-sufficient, and happy women can be on their own. I don't ever remember either of them complaining about being single. They have both focused their lives on doing anything and everything for their family, and are incredibly selfless and generous. Now, of all the things that the three of us discussed about what they wanted to have in the ceremony, for Jenny, aside from her love for John, far and away, the most important thing was to express the love, the gratitude, and the admiration that she has for her mother, Margie May, whom she referred to as the superhero of single moms.
Amen.
Let's get a good one. Okay. So this is what Jenny has to say. While always making my brother and me a priority, my mom still pursued her own interests when we were kids and continues to do so now. She was committed to always trying to become a better version of herself. My mom worked at 3 different private Chicago high schools as the Director of Development and Institutional Advancement. She now directs development and fundraising for the Sisters of the Living Word on a part-time basis in the nearby suburbs. As if this wasn't enough, she has been and continues to be an educational advocate for high school students that are wards of the state. This advocacy led her to become a foster parent, bringing 4 different children to live with us during my time in junior high and high school. And all this as a single mom. She is a survivor of breast cancer and has been completely healthy for the past 15 plus years. Didn't hear you guys. All right. I admire her positive attitude that focuses on the present moment, refusing to dwell on challenges from the past. My mom is a very spiritual person and has shown me better than anyone what a healthy relationship with yourself was like. Because she set such a wonderful example of showing herself love and acceptance, she passed on to me a strong sense of worthiness. I credit her for my fierce individuality and my refusal to lose my identity in a relationship. She has shown me how important it is to feed and develop your own interests outside of job, marriage, family role, etc. My whole life, my mom supported all of my interests and crazy ideas, whether I was calling to tell her I got a nose ring or was moving to South Korea to teach and travel. My mom is also extremely funny, and she thinks so too. Yeah, and by the way, throw out amens anytime you want, don't wait on me. So to that, I would add that it's a good indication of a person's character to meet their children and find out what kind of people they are and experience that. And so having done that, I'm going to take the liberty of speaking on behalf of the entire room when I say, Margie, you have our highest admiration and respect. Well done. So now here's what John had to say about Harry and Judy. There's never been a day in my life when I've doubted my parents' love for each other and for Molly and me. Growing up, I took this for granted, but as I got older, I realized how rare this was. The lesson was clear. Even if they didn't always speak it aloud, find someone you love to be with, and everything else will fall into place. My parents made me feel like I could do anything I wanted. Not in the sense that you can play for the polls, but in the sense that whatever path I chose, they would support me. My mom has always kept me grounded. She is the one I feel like I take after personality-wise. She's quiet but has a great sense of humor, and I find myself trying to mimic that. My mom is sneaky. People tend to notice my dad first, but then they realize how great my mom is after they get to know her a bit better. I always knew that I could talk to my mom about anything, and she'd always listen. Often she wouldn't give me advice, but instead asked me what I thought I should do. She always encouraged me to think independently and trusted me to make my own decisions. I can't imagine how hard that must be for a parent. You'll find out. My dad has always been my biggest booster. Soccer games, soccer practices, saxophone lessons, weightlifting sessions, chess tournaments, the list goes on and on and on. I don't ever remember him saying he was too busy for any of this. He always had time for me. I was a weird teenager who didn't mind having his parents around for things. Not sure how that trait missed me. Well, what John calls weird, the rest of us call extraordinary. He's always been his own person. He was his own kid, he was his own teenager, and now he's become his own man. Peer pressure had no teeth in his life. It's as if he had a filter that kept out all the bad and only let the good in. On second thought, that is weird. It's wonderfully weird, but it's one of the reasons why John is so beloved in our family. So, once again, I will take the liberty of speaking for the room when I say, Harry and Judy, you have our highest respect and admiration. Well done. Amen. So those are